Most people are aware of the measurement of visual acuity. When you go to your eye doctor, you sit in a chair, they project some letters up on a wall and you read them and they'll tell you you are 20/40, you're 20/20, you're 20/15. I won't get into what those numbers mean, but generally 20/20 is good vision, 20/15 even better. Elsewhere in the country they use metric system, it's a little different, but essentially that's visual acuity. But that's really only part of what we would call quality of vision issues. Quality of vision issues. There are other things we're going to talk about, which is dysphotopsias, but other things such as color vision, the balance between the two eyes. Do you see single vision? Do you see double vision? Glare, contrast sensitivity, and many of these other things have to do with the quality of vision. Hi, I'm Dr. James Johnson. I am Medical Director of Vitreous Floater Solutions, and all I do is treat eye floaters in my subspecialty medical practice. I'm known as the Floater Doctor. But I'm not going to talk strictly about floaters at first. I'm going to talk about some of these other factors which can affect the quality of vision. And this might also explain why the doctor might say, well, very good, you're seeing 20/20, and you're like, yeah, but there's this other quality of vision thing that I don't really have words to explain. And then he or she says, yeah, but you're seeing 20/20. You're speaking different languages. And this might help you understand why it's possible to have 20/20 vision, but still complaining about the quality of vision. That's certainly true in the case of floaters, but it's also true with a lot of other things. For instance, if you've had refractive surgery, if you've had cataract surgery, if you've had some injuries, or you have even dry eye can cause a number of these things. And this presentation is not necessarily to arm you with all of the vocabulary to try to explain that and describe that, but it might help you understand it somewhat. So we can break down these quality of vision issues, dysphotopsias, into maybe three main groups, and I'll put examples of each of these. There's glare or flare, halos, and starbursts. So glare, and I guess I'll put that somewhere here as an example. Glare can occur when you have your letter against a white background, what they're calling foreground and background, and that edge should be clear and dark and sharp and very well defined. When you start to get sort of a softening of that and a less distinct definition of the foreground versus background, or the letter versus that white background, that can occur in a number of conditions. For instance, refractive error, if you're very nearsighted, if you're very farsighted, if you have astigmatism. It can be caused with ocular surface issues. For instance, a dry or irregular tear film that can occur after LASIK. It can occur with autoimmune disorders, injuries, scarring, and things like that. Estrogen issues with postmenopausal women. Anything that disturbs or makes the tear film less stable from blink to blink can cause a glare. You can also occur with posterior capsular opacification after cataract surgery. This back membrane here can start to become kind of cloudy. Sometimes it's called a secondary cataract, not technically a cataract, but that can cause some of those problems as well. In the case of my practice, I see this a lot when people have had a posterior vitreous detachment, where this vitreous kind of pulls away, fluid gets behind that, and that pulls away from there, and you have this less clear membrane kind of billowing around in that back fluid space. Essentially what a lot of these are, other than the defocus of being nearsighted, farsightedness, is whenever you have light entering into this camera-like system, and there is, it's not all those light rays are not being focused into one place. If 95% of that light is being focused to one place, but 5% or more or so is being sort of scattered and diffracted around that, you're going to get that kind of soft little halo, or not halo, but a soft little glow around that defined edge. And that's where I see this in my practice a lot. All of these other conditions, for instance, an irregular cornea, a posterior capsular opacification, cataract, those are static and stable conditions. In other words, from moment to moment, blink to blink, eye movement to eye movement, it doesn't really change. It's not stable in the sense that over months and maybe even years or so, yeah, that can certainly get worse, but not from moment to moment. The only two that does give you some moment-to-moment change would be an irregular or unstable tear film. That will give you some instability, in between blinks. You blink, it's a little bit better, and then within just a few seconds, it's just, you kind of blink and kind of re-wet that again. It's kind of unstable. The thing about the vitreous detachment and floaters and cloudy floaters and such is that truly has a dynamic nature to that. You turn your head and that cloudiness and that glare will sort of move across. You might have moments of clarity and then it swings across there and you have that glare. Halos, again, sample of the halo here is a bit different. I will see this more so in multifocal intraocular lens implants. So with cataract surgery, cataract is a clouding of this lens right here. It's a yellowing, clouding, haziness, which can also give you glare. When they replaced those intraocular lenses, it used to be there was a standard single focus monofocal lens that would be placed in there. So in the last several 10 years or so, these multifocal intraocular lenses have become much more popular. And the way they work is they take basically 100% of the light rays entering into this system and throwing numbers out there. We'll say 50% of it is focused here, and then 50% of it is focused slightly in front of that. And then so if you're looking at an object at distance, half of the light rays are focused here, half of it is in this halo-y kind of ring around there. Then when you focus on something closer to you, there's a shift, and it's half in focus, and then there's another glary a halo that surrounds that. That's kind of unique to these multifocal lenses where you have two distinct focal points. That's something that may not have been explained to you, and it may not be fully explained to you. The manufacturers will show you, produce a brochure, the representative or the doctor will show you a brochure and says, look, we can get you out of glasses. You can see distance and you can see near, and you're not going to be stuck with reading glasses like I am. And that's amazing. Oh, and by the way, it's a little extra money, maybe $3,000, $4,000 out of pocket, but it'll be high definition vision. It'll be amazing. That's kind of how it's sold. It, sidebar over here, little comment, is, they're very well designed, but I think they just don't really explain to you that there might be this quality of vision, a dysphotopsia that will go along with those intraocular lenses. And so, caveat emptor, buyer beware. This is part of you doing your due diligence to sort that out. Is the benefit of being mostly functional without glasses, is it worth the decrease in the quality of vision? I don't know. It kind of depends on you and your personality. If you are a software engineer, if you do a lot of reading, a lot of work on your computer, a lot of detail work at a set fixed distance, having that issue may not be good enough for you. If on the other hand, you just want to be out and about, you just want to be able to grab your phone and take a look at it, you want to look at your watch, you want to grab a menu real quick, you just want to be really, really functional without glasses, that might work quite nice for you, but there's trade-offs. As in life, you can't have it all, and these multifocal lenses, truly, you can't have it all. Trade-offs. Now, starbursts, again, sample here. Starbursts can be seen with refractive error, again, nearsighted, farsighted. Can be seen with ocular surface disorders, bad tear film, blepharitis, again, all the things that can cause problems with your tear film. And can be seen with different types of multifocal lenses with these newer diffractive style lenses. And again, this is sort of the newer phase of that. So, whether you have halos or starbursts, both of those are qualitative changes to your quality of vision that will occur with these newer, highly promoted multifocal lenses that you either have or you'll be sold on. So that's a very brief, kind of overview on dysphotopsias, and which is quality of vision. Not, there's more than just Snellen visual chart vision, but these dysphotopsias. Now, let me shift a little bit. Talk a little bit about contrast sensitivity. So this is again one of the quality of vision issues. Contrast sensitivity is your ability to distinguish gray on gray. Okay, so when you sit down in the chair at your doctor's office and they put 100% black letters on a 100% white background, that's essentially 100% contrast, right? And the brighter the light environment, the better your eye's contrast will be. Same thing with photography, right? Low light, it's hard to get really good quality images. They get a little grainy, especially with digital. And the brighter the light is, you can change the ISOs to your favor. You just get better quality images the brighter the light is. The eye is the same way. And so contrast sensitivity is a very important part of what we call the quality of vision. And so example, black on white and better lighting will give you better contrast, and dim or dark environments and or gray versus gray. So if you are in the high latitudes, in the wintertime, at dusk, and there's a woman wearing gray, pushing a gray stroller, and it's foggy, and that's a very, very low contrast situation, and the vision is not going to be very good. If you have some of these other conditions which can affect contrast sensitivity, the vision is going to be even more poor. Now, where the floaters come in, one aspect of changes to the vitreous that can take place is what is called a posterior vitreous detachment. Again, as I explained earlier, that's when that vitreous sort of pulls away from that. Now, we're not even talking about specific floaters. We're just talking about a PVD. How common is that? 25% of 60-year-olds will have a PVD. And this is just randomly chosen. Off the street, we find a bunch of 60-year-olds, we do measurements, we do the examination, we'll find a good 25% of them will have had a posterior vitreous detachment. That goes up with age. Same, grab a bunch of 80-year-olds, do the examination, that rate goes up to 60%. So it is clearly an age-related phenomenon. The older you are, the more likely you are to have a PVD. Again, not even talking about the floaters, like specific clouds and strands and things like that. So Dr. Sabag in Huntington Beach, who's a retina specialist, he did a study, and he showed that just the presence of a PVD alone will decrease your contrast sensitivity by about 50%. That's a lot. And again, it's one of those things that people have a very hard time trying to describe. Doctor, my vision is not clear. Yeah, but you're reading 20/20. It's that whole thing back and forth again. So, it happens. Now, kind of related to this, but not really in a way, is this issue of like, well, let's say you have glare. From whatever source, you've got glare. You know you have glare. You're driving into the car headlights, the street lamps and such, the setting sun, those types of things are causing a lot of glare. Well, if it's cataract and it's bad enough, well, you can get cataract surgery and get that improved. But let's just say you have glare. And your eyeglass prescription is changing, it's time to get that fixed, so you go to the local optometrist and they do their refraction and they say, well, your refraction has changed a quarter diopter, which is nothing, half a diopter, whatever. We'd like, I'm going to write you a prescription for some glasses. And by the way, let me guide you over to our own optical shop over here where you can choose from our assortment of expensive frames. Am I sounding cynical? I hope not. Where you can choose from our frames and choose that. So you go and you say, well, this is nice, I like this, this is very good. And they're like, okay, well, we'll do some measurements, which they do. And they say, oh, and by the way, I would highly recommend our anti-glare coating. At that point, there should be red flags, right? But there isn't. We'd like to recommend this anti-glare coating so you have less glare. And you're saying, great, because I've got glare, right? This is going to help me. Well, hang on there, bucko. What they're really promoting is an anti-reflective coating. Now, there's a difference, okay? An anti-reflective coating, you can sometimes see it because if you just kind of shine some light in there and you kind of look at the surface there, it has a little bit of a blue-green color. I'm reflecting it actually off my light right here. As I'm looking at that, it has kind of a blue-green color to it. And it's a little bit of a matte finish to it rather than a very bright reflection on there. That's the anti-reflective coating, right? It's really not changing the glare because light has to pass through all of these surfaces here. It has to pass through your tear film, it has to pass through your cornea, it has to pass through your lens, it has to pass through any posterior capsular opacification, PCO, if you have that. It has to pass through your vitreous detachment. And this is where all the diffraction and all the glare comes from. putting a pair of glasses in there is not going to change that. The light still has to pass through these right here. So let me just say, the anti-glare coating really only benefits somebody else looking at you. So if I'm in a big box store, or I'm doing a presentation in the corporate setting and there's these bright fluorescent lights all over the place, that light is going to reflect off my glasses and is going to reflect off to the observer, you, sitting out there. Or if I'm having photographs taken and you have these the reflection coming off that will help reduce some of that reflection to you, the observer. It really doesn't change my glare, or it doesn't really improve glare if that's what I suffer. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, again, information, you're better armed with information when you go in and do that. And you might still say, hey, it's worth the extra, I don't know what it is, $50, $60, whatever it is that they charge for the anti-glare coating. Maybe it's only $20. I don't know. It may be worth it to you. I have anti-glare on here as well. I don't have problems with glare, but I don't like the reflection coming off the glasses. So, bottom line is there's lots of things that affect the quality of vision. Some that you can do something about. If you have a bad tear film, there's oftentimes things that you can do about that. Cataract, if it gets bad enough, you can have cataract surgery. Depending on which intraocular lens you put in there, that might affect whether you have things like halos and starbursts. If you've had a posterior vitreous detachment, can't do much about that, to tell you the truth. You cannot get that vitreous to reattach. There's no way to do so. It just doesn't, right? So that's that. Well, no, I take that back. There is a procedure for that. If somebody has really, really bad floaters, you can justify a floater-only vitrectomy. A vitrectomy, without much detail, they go in and they basically remove all of this fluid and replace it with a saline fluid. It's invasive. It's got its risks. It's got its challenges. I'll talk about that in another video. So there are some things you can do about this. Contrast sensitivity, again, better lighting if you're going to read, have lighting not coming at you this way, but from behind you. Just being aware of some of these things. And if you are at a point where you're developing cataract and the doctors are strongly promoting these multifocal lenses, I might as well talk about some of that right now. I've got a few more minutes. I'm not against the multifocal lenses, but you need to know what you're getting into. Choose wisely. I will say this. I don't think they can really justify the cost, the additional cost. It used to be that the insurance companies and Medicare here in the United States paid for cataract surgery, and that was it. The companies lobbied, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, and they said, we now have this better technology. We'd like you to still pay for the cataract surgery, but because this is our research and development, develop these things, it's expensive technology, we'd like to be able to charge the patient for the difference. And the regulatory, Medicare, who generally sort of leads the pathway and all this, they said, all right, that sounds right. And so the doctor can basically charge anything for that. But there's no, to put a multifocal lens in the eye, there's no additional equipment. There's no additional or different preoperative evaluation or measurements. The surgery, you cannot tell the difference between the surgery. It's the exact same surgery. Post-op care is the same. Post-op medications, everything is the exact same as if they put a single focus lens in place. Yeah, the lenses are more expensive, but it's a piece of plastic. Can you justify the cost of $3,500 to $4,000 that I hear people paying for this? 2 eyes, now you're getting into $8,000 or so. That's for you to decide. It's not my position to say you should or should not. I will tell you this though. When my mother and my ex-mother-in-law and anybody else who'd asked me said, what should I do? I said, you know what? I'd go with the single focus lens. I think they can dial that in better. I think the results are more predictable. Yeah, you might still need reading glasses. That's what I do. I'm of that age. I need them. I'm used to that. And that way I know that both of my eyes are focused in the same place. They're either focused for distance, without. I put on my reading glasses. I can see up close. It's all good. And there's workarounds for that as well. For instance, myself, When I go out socially or go on a date or something like that, I will put a single contact lens in just one eye. That one gives me a little bit of power for up close, so I can see for distance, both eyes open. I can see up close, both eyes open. My brain kind of shifts its emphasis from one to the other, and it's called monovision. And that's something that just about anybody can do. And the nice thing about it is I can see for distance when I'm playing sports like tennis is what I do. I can put on my reading glasses and I can see up close with both eyes balanced. And then under certain circumstances, without an absolute commitment, I can put a contact lens in one eye and be able to see distance and near, but I'm not committed to that. So for me, that works. That's an option worth discussing with your doctor. And by the way, that's also possible with an implant lens where you have one lens implanted, which is for distance, the other one for near. So you can do monovision with the implant lenses, and that way you're kind of avoiding some of these problems with halos and starbursts that you get with the implanted multifocal lenses. It's just my opinion, okay? I don't do cataract surgery anymore, and I haven't done so for a while, so I've got no skin in that game. It's just my opinion, for what it's worth. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, and if you'd like to hear more of this on both on floaters as well as just sort of general ophthalmology, I'll ask you to subscribe and recommend this channel to anybody else. And if you do have floaters, I am the floater doctor. That's all I do is treat floaters here in Southern California. So if you have floaters and you need an evaluation and possible treatment, I'm the guy. Anyways, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you for your interest in my practice, and I hope you learned a little bit of something. And by the way, if you have suggestions or if you have questions, you can send them to right up in the comments here. Go to my website. There's a contact form. You can contact me. That's where I get ideas for this. I think I had a conversation with somebody about glare. And that was the catalyst for this whole presentation. So I really do read these. I try to put time in to answer them, and all to help expand your visual consciousness. All right? Anyways, have a great day. Thank you again. Talk to you later.